Hey guys, in this tutorial we'll discuss about bid scaling. So bid scaling is very important in order for us to have fair auction within DFP between header bid partners, ad exchange, and all other competing line items within DFP. So very important elements of a discrepancy tracker should be your page views. That's the total page views found in the analytics account of the publisher. DFP impression is the total impressions across all orders on DFP. And impression per page view, that's basically impressions over page views. So that's the average number of impressions on every page. And the M2HB version that's running. So the version there that you can see is just basically here. So we update that if in case we upgrade or change that to something else. All right, so we have the different ad networks right here. And if they're net, then you always make sure you compare the net revenue versus the DFP revenue. And then of course we compare the UI impressions versus DFP impressions. And this is where we track them. So that's impressions and then revenue. Now if the ad network is reporting in gross amount, then you have to make sure you have the net column. So because we always use net to compare it apples to apples with DFP, and then same thing for impressions. So that's basically the important items that we need to take note of when we create or build our discrepancy tracker. Now, not all discrepancy tracker may look the same, but the elements there would pretty much be more or less the same. So let's get started. Let's say, for example, this is the latest result. So this is for yesterday here at the very bottom that you can see. So we always use revenue discrepancy as our basis for bid scaling. So I'm not sure why the config is doing this right now, but just ignore that. So for Sovereign, for example, yesterday's result is 91.20. So we go here and we're using desktop staging right now, so we don't mess up the live or production config. So you look for Sovereign right here. There you go. And whatever's the current scale discrepancy data or number you have here, you will have to scale that by the revenue discrepancy result for yesterday. So it's 91.2. So 0.93, that's your current bid scale there. All right. Then you multiply that by this, and that's going to be 0.912. All right, 91.2%. So 0.93 times 0.912, and you get 0.85. So we just run it off. Okay, so going back there, you will have to change this to 0.85. That's it. And you do the same for the rest. Now let's take another one as an example here. AOL. Okay, let's try to see. AOL is currently 0.95, and yesterday's result is 117. And there's a scale revenue share parameter only for gross bidders. Usually the AppNexus bidders, like 152 Media, Be Real Time, Define Media, District M, they should have scale revenue share because their bids are gross. All right, the rest that are net bidders do not necessarily have, or it's not necessary for the net bidders to have that parameter as programmed by our AdOps engineering team. All right, so 117, and that's 0.95. Let's see here. 0.95 times 1.17. And that's over 100 already. Okay, so we cannot put anything over 100 here or over more than 1 here. If it has been consistently over 100, you have to recheck with your rep if your scale revenue here or your revenue share here is correct, because sometimes it might not be 0.8 but 0.9, you know, because it's overscaled. Obviously it's going over 100 here. But in this case, since it has been over 100 and month to date is also 117, what I would do is I'll delete the scale discrepancy parameter here and just let it run on its own. And of course, I will closely monitor tomorrow's performance. And then I will reach out to my rep and double check if the revenue share is indeed 80%, 80-20. If it's 90-10, then change this to 0.9. All right, now, what if tomorrow's data comes in and you see here the result is 0.95? Then you can just always add the parameter scale discrepancy and do 0.95. Then observe again how it impacts performance. All right, so that's it. Let's take another example here. Here, define media. Oops, define media is perfectly scaled at 100%. So I'm not gonna touch that anymore. How about here, 152 media. So latest discrepancy, revenue discrepancy result is 135%. Now it's obviously overscaled. So what we're gonna do now is bump it up again to make sure we hit our goal of more or less 100% accuracy, right? So scale discrepancy is currently at 0.7. All right, now I'm gonna scale that by 1.35, and that gives me 0.95. All right, I'm gonna do that and observe performance again tomorrow and adjust accordingly. Now, what does bid scaling does? So meaning, if you scale 152 media by 0.95, if, for example, it throws a bid for $10, DFP will only treat that as 9.5 instead of 10. So if this is overscaled, like for example, you scale that down to 0.5 and 152 media sent a bid for $10, now DFP will only treat that as $5. If there's another bidder throwing for a bid of $7, then that $7 bid won instead of 152 media. That's $10 because the moment it goes into DFP, because it's scaled, it's only treated as 50% less of whatever bid it throws. So that is why it's important that we tweak this ideally every day based on the result that we get from our revenue discrepancy tracking in here. All right, so if you guys have any questions, suggestions, additional information, please let me know. Thank you.